Okay, it's live streaming and it's recording, so it's all yours. And again, Chris is in the meeting. He's a co-host. You're a co-host. Debbie's a co-host. Bernadette's a co-host since you're all committee members. And then Chris is a co-host. So just call me if you need me. All right.
We got you. Okay. Welcome, everybody. And today is Monday, April 3rd, although it does say up here April 4th. So we're one day ahead, but that's not too bad. It's really April 3rd today. Okay, so welcome and review of meeting minutes. Mr. Kirk, are they officially published as of this moment? Answer me, Mr. Kirk.
I'm looking for it. I don't think we were provided with minutes.
Oh, I thought they were taken at the last one. Okay, we will have to discuss that. Okay, no problem. Briefly, at the last meeting, we had all that talk about the municipal lot, so on and so forth. As far as I know, I don't know if they're going through with it finally, but I guess we'll have to report that at our next meeting. Okay, so let's go to the wonderful MTA. And the MTA today is going to talk about Penn Station access. So I don't know who the leader is going to be, but I see a Brad, I see a Joe, and I do not see anybody else. So Brad and Joe, it is all yours. Take it away. We're here to listen eagerly about the MTA going from the Bronx, New York to Penn Station.
Thanks so very much for having us, Community Board 11. My name is Joe O'Donnell. I'm the Director of Government and Community Relations for MTA Construction and Development. We are the arm of the MTA that will actually be delivering this project on behalf of Metro North. I'm also joined this evening by Brad Note, who is the Deputy Project Executive for the project. So Brad's here. Once we have a bit of a presentation to run through with everybody, just to sort of level set where we are with the project, what we've accomplished in this short time that we've been active and where we're looking to go in the near future. So Brad's here when we get to the Q&A portion of things to, help with any of the technical questions that we might have, and also to jump in where needed. We also have a couple members of our community outreach team who you may be familiar with or heard from over the last year plus. So Yvette Kleinbach and Tali Goldman are both with us from our community outreach team. So we're here to talk to you this evening about the Penn Station Access Project. I believe I have screen sharing capabilities. Yes, I do. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah.
We can.
Yes.
Okay. So as I mentioned, yes, we're here to talk to you this evening about the Penn Station Access Program. Let me put this in full screen. Hang on one second. So we're here to talk to you about the Penn Station Access Project. Now, we've been to Community Board 11 a few times in the past already as we worked on getting this project up and awarded, and then after award. But for those of you who may not know, we'll start with a little bit of level setting so that we're all speaking the same language. Then we'll get into the new business, if you will, and where we've been and where we're going. And then obviously open it up to questions. So what is the Penn Station Access Project? It is a new Metro North rail service. It'll introduce new Metro North rail service to and from Penn Station from the Bronx. It'll also bring us or allow folks in the Bronx to get to points north, like Westchester and Stamford, Connecticut. As part of this project, there will be 4 new ADA stations in the Bronx, reducing commute times to Manhattan's Midtown West in Penn Station by up to about 50 minutes each way. It's going to increase regional transportation connectivity. There's going to be a whole host of new transportation options afforded to folks by being able to get into Penn Station and all that it has to offer. It's going to upgrade Amtrak's existing Hellgate line to a state of good repair. So along with introducing this new service into what is presently a 2-track railroad, we're going to turn it into a 4-track railroad in order to bring this new service into Penn. But we're also going to be upgrading a lot of Amtrak's existing infrastructure to bring it into a state of good repair while we are here. And then also as part of this project, we'll be expanding the New Rochelle Yard to north, and that's to allow us to be able to run more service as well as serving as a crew and crew facility. Yep, wrong way. So some of the other key elements of this project, as I mentioned, are the infrastructure that we'll be upgrading. We'll be upgrading several bridges, a bunch of interlockings, the Bronx interlocking, Pelham Bay interlocking, Young interlocking, Leggett interlocking, Tremont interlocking. The interlockings are important because trains, much like a large tractor trailer truck, if you will, can't just turn on a dime like a car might. So they need to be switched from one track to another. So these interlockings allow us to do that. And as I get further along in this presentation, I'll speak about the Leggett interlocking and its criticality to this project moving forward. The substations that we'll be introducing, there's a Co-op City substation. There is a Van Nest AC substation, as well as a New Rochelle AC substation. There's an Oak AC substation. And then as we get further along down into Queens, there's a Bowery AC substation, a Gate DC substation, and a 48th Street DC substation as the trains start transitioning to third rail as they move on into Penn Station. And then, as I mentioned, there's obviously the 4 stations you can see here in, I guess, Tangerine, Co-op City, Morris Park, Parkchester, Van Nest, and Hunts Point. Some of the benefits of this project, it's going to decrease travel times. Talked a little bit about that and how it will save upwards of 50 minutes for folks. It's going to improve access to underserved neighborhoods and get you to your destination faster. So if you're in the East Bronx, it's going to get you to Manhattan or 2 points north faster. It's also going to open up reverse commuting for folks traveling from Manhattan to the Bronx, as well as from points north to the Bronx, making it a much easier destination to get to, allowing for folks to work, live, and play in this particular area, as well as opening it up to, you know, especially in places like Morris Park, where we have a very vibrant medical community there with Einstein Montefiore. You also have Hutch Metro Center and Simone, and everything that's going on over in that area. So a lot of job opportunities. It's a vibrant employment center along with Hunts Point. Those 2 areas in particular will be able to attract world-class talent that might not otherwise have thought it was easy enough to get to those areas. And then you have your Parkchester, Van Nest, and your Co-op City areas, which are largely or skew more towards the residential side than they do the commercial side, but also offering opportunities for folks to get to and from places that otherwise would have been more difficult. It's going to introduce economic vitality in the short term and the long term. In the short term, there's going to be an influx in not only the workers who are coming in to build the project and the spending that they bring into the economy every day, but we're also going to be looking to source materials and procure materials in this in the Bronx. So that's going to help. And then in the long term, as I mentioned, it's going to make this area a lot easier to get to. So you'll be able to attract more folks, especially to shops and businesses, and so to some of these employment centers that I discussed. It literally will bridge communities and figuratively bridge communities. If 3 of the 4 stations are center platform stations, where there will be opportunities to get to the Penn Station access or the Metro North service from more than one side of the tracks. So what'll happen is there will be a literal bridge, and then it figuratively bridges places like, for instance, Morris Park that I mentioned, with on one side of the track you have Einstein Montefiore, and on the other side you have the Hutch Metro Center, which, you know, you used to have to traverse all the way around the tracks in order to get from one side of the community to the other. Now you'll literally be able to go across the pedestrian bridge that'll be built to get to this center platform, and be able to cross from one community to the other there. From a sustainability standpoint, it's going to encourage drivers. Those time savings, we hope the 1-seat ride and the time savings brought on by this project are going to encourage folks to get out of their cars and switch to train travel. That'll reduce congestion and improve air quality. I mentioned some of those reverse commuting opportunities. It's going to allow folks from the Bronx not only to get in and out of Manhattan, but as I mentioned, Westchester, Stamford. Stamford is a vibrant and bustling business center as well. And then it's going to attract that new talent into the Bronx and allow folks, from other areas to get there to work. It's going to optimize existing infrastructure. So we presently have a 2-track railroad there that's utilized by Amtrak and freight, which we are going to expand to a 4-track railroad. So we are not going in and we don't need to create new tunnels or vastly expand the footprint that's already there. There will be some scenarios where we are widening some areas, or there will be property that we will need to acquire in order for our vertical circulation elements to touch down for the stations themselves. But we're largely taking the existing footprint, the Amtrak footprint, and improving upon it so that we're using existing infrastructure and not needing to reinvent the wheel here. I mentioned regional transportation connectivity at the onset. So now by entering into Penn Station, Metro North customers will be able to transfer at Penn Station to Amtrak, to Long Island Railroad, to New Jersey Transit, to the PATH, to the existing New York City subway system, and to the New York City bus network as well. And then enhanced network reliability. This is going to provide flexibility for Metro North and improve on-time performance for intercity passengers. This creates, in essence, a secondary lifeline for Metro North service. Anybody who's familiar with the existing service, there's one way in and one way out to Manhattan right now for Metro North. And in the event of a Superstorm Sandy or another catastrophic natural event, if you remember back in 2016, there was the fire on the along the viaduct that essentially shut down service to and from Manhattan. This creates flexibility for Metro North and providing it with a secondary lifeline into and out of the city. We mentioned some of the time savings. This graph here, is to illustrate some of the time savings if you were to go from one of the 4 stations that we will be creating and then to other points. So for instance, we use Co-op City as one of the more northernmost stations going into and out of Penn Station. That right now, using the existing infrastructure, would take you about 75 minutes. Fast forward to the onset of Penn Station Access, and that travel time drops to 25 minutes, or a savings of upwards of 50 minutes. Going to the north, similarly, if you're thinking about, say Hunts Point, which is southernmost along the new alignment of the 4 stations, and you're going to someplace like Stamford, currently would take around 80 minutes to get to. That's 47 minutes with the new service once it gets going, and a 33-minute savings. So considerable amounts of savings. The greatest of which, if you look across the board here, is Co-op City to Stamford. Presently takes around 110 minutes to get to. Time savings of 73 minutes because once service is up and running, Co-op City to Stamford will be about 37 minutes. This, as I mentioned, is this project is being constructed largely inside the Amtrak right of way. So there are benefits to Amtrak and the freight railroads as well. It's going to improve their on-time performance and reliability for their intercity passengers. I mentioned it's going to bring Amtrak's Hellgate line to a state of good repair, including an all-new catenary system, which is that overhead power system, which you can actually see to the right of the screen here above the Acela train. Those wires that go overhead, that's the overhead catenary system, as opposed to the 3rd-track rail system, which I mentioned. This project will be stepping down trains down to as they approach Penn Station. And then there's going to be upgrades to 100-plus-year-old bridge structures, which will not only bring them into a state of good repair, but extend their useful life, for the foreseeable future. There will be considerable electrical upgrades, improved signal systems, and state-of-the-art communication systems, and significant enhancements to stormwater management, including new drainage along the right-of-way here, which is susceptible to flooding, or has been susceptible to flooding in the past, and we hope to improve upon that. To give you a sense of where we are with the project, we awarded the contract in December of 2021. That was after entering into an agreement with Amtrak. Amtrak is the owner here. We are going to be a tenant inside their right-of-way, so There's a lot of coordination that needs to go on with Amtrak, not only for the work that's going to be done, but also for their folks to oversee the work that's going to be going on. We have to clear everything with them in advance, and then they have to provide supervision as well as we execute this project. So a lot going on with Amtrak and a lot of coordination needed in order for this project to get executed. I mentioned the contract was awarded in December of 21. The contractor was given notice to proceed, which means they were free to get going on the project in January of 2022. And we anticipate that the completion date and when revenue service would get going is in 2027. So for this, for Community Board 11, the two stations that you are most, I guess, interested in, not that you're not interested in all of them, but the two that fall within your boundaries are the Morris Park Station, which you can see here. The light blue shows you where the platform area would be. So there would be a south entrance on Bassett Avenue private side, and that's proximate to the Marriott that is there now on Bassett Avenue, the Residence Inn. It would come down on that side for the south entrance. And then on the north side, on the Montefiore side, it's going to come down on Bassett Avenue public on the north entrance. That darker blue area is that pedestrian crossing that I mentioned will literally bridge the community. For the Parkchester Van Ness station, again, conceptual design, but the station in light blue is going to be located along East Tremont Avenue on the opposite side of the tracks from the Con Edison substation that's there today, and then directly across the street from the Parkchester apartment complex. There will be an entry point on East Tremont Avenue, as well as a new entrance that was added at Unionport Road at the bridge. If you see on the right, there's a conceptual rendering, very reminiscent of the very sort of classic Metro North designs. Brad Note, who I mentioned, is the deputy project executive on this project. He is also formerly with M&R and knows a good deal about the M&R design criteria. So this is very much in keeping with the very classic Metro North design. You see the wood underlay underneath the ceiling, the roofs to exist as ceilings. A lot of blue for the state colors. There is art components as part of this station, as part of all of the stations, and actually we were lucky enough to have Bernadette as part of our art selection panel. So while we can't speak publicly about it yet because the art is still being worked through in terms of the concept and the design, I can tell you that we have gone through narrowing down the artists who submitted proposals and do have a finalist. And once they are further along in their process, hopefully we'll be able to announce that and give folks a sneak peek as to what that art's going to look like. But Community Board 11, as well as some of our elected officials from this area, were part of the art selection panels for all of these stations. So part of our 22 accomplishments, or 2022 accomplishments, that is, we opened up a co-located project office with our design build team. We had 45 design build packages, which were under development. They were advanced to 60% design. We've mobilized in a lot of areas, created laydown areas and permanent field trailers to get, prepared for when that real, and when I say real, not that the work that we've been doing isn't real, but that the construction work, that heavy construction work that folks really will, peg to this project. The Leggett crossover special track work that I mentioned, those components were ordered and delivered. We knew well in advance of even awarding this contract that some of the long lead items needed to get going, and that Leggett crossover material was critical to that work and needed to get here, so that we had it on hand when the contract was awarded, so that the contractor could have that at his disposal. Our site surveys, geological borings, and test pits are about 80% complete as of the end of 2022. It's continued to advance here in 2023. We've been clearing the right of way, doing some utility relocation, and creating access roads in advance. And then we've also started some work on the Bronxdale Avenue and Eastchester Road bridges. Notifications have gone out to folks proximate to those areas to let them know, as well as the elected officials and stakeholders to let them know of any potential impacts, lane closures, et cetera, along the lines of this work. I mentioned the early Leggett work and how critical that is. The benefits of the Leggett work will allow the railroad operational flexibility. As I mentioned, trains cannot just turn. So they need to physically be moved or switched from one track to another. By doing that Leggett work early, it allows us to move Amtrak trains from the track that we need to work on onto another track so that service can continue and we can continue our work safely without concerns about a train or having to stop every so often in order to let a train pass through. So it provides opportunities for extended track outages, which allows us to do more work. I mentioned the advancement of those long lead procurements. Advanced Design initiated the procurement and fabrication of this special track work prior to even the award of the design build contract. And then we took delivery of those special components for the Leggett crossover in September of 2022. And we expect that we will be implementing and installing that Leggett crossover here in 2023. Some of the risks, as I mentioned, we are a tenant here, so we are beholden to Amtrak. It's very early on in the project. There was a lot of news about Amtrak and their ability or inability at the time to meet the project's needs in terms of force account. That means the labor needed to oversee and supervise this work, as well as to provide the long-term outages that we needed in order to do this work. We've since come to an agreement, which I'll talk about in a little bit, with Amtrak in order to accomplish those long-term outings. So things are in a much better place. We have the agreements that we need in place with Amtrak now. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball, but we're hopeful because of the fact that we do have these long-term outages in place now, that things will move a lot more smoothly and we will be able to recoup some of that time lost while we work those agreements out. I mentioned a potential schedule delay. So there was a current 6 to 9 month delay due to that limited access. We're still working on a time impact analysis to understand the full breadth of the scheduled delays and figure out a way to recover that delay. We obviously were actively engaged with Amtrak to recover that scheduled delay by introducing the long-term outage, and then we were pleasantly pleased to be able to announce the fact that we did come to terms with Amtrak on that long-term outage, which will provide a 6-month outage from March through September of 2023. That's going to provide the design builder with larger windows to do the work that they need to do without fear of having to stop because a train is bearing down on the work that we're completing. It grants the opportunity to install a lot of engineered controls to protect work with less force account. So if we've got a track shut down because we've moved the train and service onto another track, then that means that we need less supervision over the length of that course of track because it's not active. And then it improves construction efficiency and productivity, obviously, by allowing us, I guess an industry term would be wrench time. It allows us more consistent and continuous wrench time rather than having to pick stuff up and get off the tracks in order for train traffic to pass through. And then, we are also working with Amtrak to increase their force account resources via new hires. And that force account is the account that would oversee on Amtrak's behalf all of our work. So what we hope to use this Amtrak long-term outage to do, as I mentioned, from March 6th through September of 2023, we're going to complete Plate C work. And if you see on the right of your screen, Plate C is the top green bubble on the right-hand side of the screen, on the right-hand side of the tracks. And that will be to lower the track's elevation and raise the catenary structures. That's those overhead power lines to create clearance for freight trains. We hope to complete the CSX switch, which will allow for freight trains to cross over from tracks 5 to track 2, again, allowing us to increase railroad operational flexibility by being able to switch trains, in this case, freight. It's going to allow us to do that advanced Leggett interlocking. So if you see at the southernmost portion of your screen here, or the southernmost portion of the alignment, being able to switch trains this early allows us further upstream to dedicate more consistent work for, again, for longer periods of time without fear of having to get off the tracks because trains are coming. It's going to allow us to recover schedule again because we can do more. We have more wrench time to get things done. And then it will also allow us to advance drainage, some retaining wall construction, the station entrance foundations, because later this year we hope to get going on some of the station work, and then some more of that bridge work that I mentioned. Looking ahead to 2023, we're going to advance those design packages that we talked about to 100%. So we should be 100% complete with all of our design by the end of this year. We're going to commence that track and drainage work. We're upgrading the existing overhead power systems, those catenary systems. We're going to install Leggett. I mentioned we're going to construct retaining walls. We're going to work on the Van Nest, Oak, and Co-op City substations, continue the work on the Bronxdale Avenue and Eastchester Road and Bronx River and Pelham Lane bridges. And then, excitingly, we will begin work on the passenger station areas here in 2023. We do have several ways that you can get a hold of us. Many of you, certainly CB11, Community Board 11, has my contact information, my direct contact information. But we do have a project hotline that you can call. If you don't get somebody live, certainly outside of regular business hours, you can leave a message and that'll be rerouted to the project staff. We do have a dedicated project email where you can send questions, concerns, or inquiries to that project email. We do have a dedicated project website where we host all of the materials related to this project, as well as any updates on any critical work, that may have impacts on the community. Our newsletters and any presentations like this, we'll give Community Board 11 a copy of this presentation. As a matter of fact, we gave them a copy in advance, but they'll be able to host it on their website. But you can also go to our website if you need to access any old information or are looking for the latest news. And then there's also a link on that webpage, a click through, where you can sign up for project updates and you can tailor those updates. Maybe you want to know about all 4 of the station areas and the project as a whole. Maybe you're just more concerned with one station or the 2 stations that Community Board 11 has in their district. So you can sign up to tailor those updates, those web updates, as best suits you. And with that, I will say thank you and turn it back over to Community Board 11 for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph, for a very, very informative presentation. Okay, so my question, I don't know if you're an expert in the Bronx, and this is like a twist of a question I've asked before. So if you live in, let's say, Pelham Parkway, and you live, I don't know, on Barnes Avenue in Pelham Parkway, which is a few blocks we would call east of White Plains Road. So you have to make a choice now. Are you going to go to Botanical Gardens and get a nice parking garage to park your car and go straight into Grand Central and then figure out how you're going to get to Penn Station? Or are you going to now go over to Morris Park, where there is no parking lot? Apparently in the design, we've been told that there is no parking lots at any of these stations. And to get from Barnes Avenue and in Pelham Parkway to Morris Park, yeah, sure, you could take a bike. If it's nice weather, you could take a walk. But for sure, and I know you're trying to get rid of cars, which everybody's trying to do, but you could go to the luxury of Botanical Gardens, park your car over there, and get into Grand Central, which is not Penn Station. Now, the second part of the question is, indeed, you've decided not to do any parking at the Morris Park station. So I don't know who it was once. I think it was an MTA person that said, well, there's going to be plenty of parking lots around there, which you're going to have to pay bucks for. You're going to have to pay money for. So that's, I guess, my question roundabout is why for any of these stations there was no design for parking. And what I'm thinking, and this I'll shut up after this, is where the Morris Park station is, people are going to go park and Stop and Shop. They're going to park by the hotel, and they're going to park there for free. And my dear Joseph, you're going to have a problem there because Shop and Stop and the hotel is going to say all these cars are now parking here because you did not give them a parking lot, and this is nice and free, and they could sit here a whole day. Thank you for a response.
Yeah, no problem, and thank you for the question. And I believe we've spoken about this before. But yeah, there are no parking lots, parking garages as part of the scope of this project. Brad could talk a little bit more about how Metro North guidelines and the fact that they don't typically include parking structures, for any of their stations. But the conventional wisdom too is as you alluded to, we are not trying to encourage, folks to come in to park in these areas, which the existence of a parking structure would, so there's that double-edged sword, right? If you build it, they will come. By the same token, we need people to be able to get to and from the station. New York City, the city of New York is also looking at a lot of the first mile, last mile elements of this. And, we've all had conversations with DCP and MTA and the public at large, including in all 4 of these future station areas as part of their visioning process on how to make that first mile, last mile better, and what the city could possibly do. This project doesn't preclude parking garages or structures or lots. But what it does, it doesn't include it. The other element of that is you mentioned busing, or maybe you mentioned biking and walking, but as part of our Bronx Overall Network redesign, some of the things that they're contemplating is the eventual service that'll be running in these areas too. So they have an eye, and obviously this project will not be up and running until 2027. So there certainly is time to take another look at it between now and the implementation of this service, to tweak bus service as needed to get folks to and from the station as well, a possibility. But Brad, if you wanted to mention a little bit about the design criteria and Metro North thinking around the planning of these stations.
I think, Joe, you covered a lot of it already, but as part of Metro North's design guidelines, like you said, we do not have parking garages or parking lots as part of that. The vast majority of the Metro North parking lots are actually owned and operated by the local communities. Our stations are going to be very closely coordinated with MTA bus. So if you live near a bus stop, you'll be able to take one of those, hopefully, to one of these stations. The station entrances are all designed to have drop-off and pickup locations. So, about 100, 150 feet in front of every station is going to be an area where you can drive up, get out of your car while your loved one continues to drive on. Your loved one waits in the afternoon and picks you up. It's going to be very multimodal with bikes. I know e-scooters is something that we're looking into, e-scooter stations. But the big thing here is that the environmental assessment, which was required by the FTA for this project, did not include parking garages, parking lots. That's a big reason why the environmental assessment was passed with a finding of no significant impact. And like Joe said, we're trying to discourage people from taking cars here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you're muted if you're talking.
Okay, sorry. Anybody from committee have a question?
Yeah, I have.
Bernadette's hand up. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm the other person that's on the transportation committee. A few things. One, I mean, you're saying taking a bus to, like, say, Morris Park. Where I live, I would actually have to take 2 buses to get to the Morris Park train station versus 1 bus to go over to Fordham. So that really wouldn't even make sense to me. But if there was a parking garage, I would much rather drive over to Morris Park, park in the parking garage, and then hop on the train if I was going to use the train. Second thing is, when you were saying when you had the slide that was showing the savings of time, and it was saying Stamford at 110 minutes, what time of day is that being calculated? Because I can go to Stamford in 30 minutes easy, and that's not even doing 100 miles an hour. That's doing the speed limit. So I don't know why it says 100, why it's saying nearly 2 hours to go over to
So-
Stamford, which is I don't
If I
understand.
could on
what
that,
the
that's using the existing options available with mass transit today. It's not suggesting, a race between a car and a train. It's how you would be able to navigate there using today's transit options, and it compares, whatever time, and I don't know off the top of my head what time they used, but they used the same time if they projected leaving at 5 o'clock today to 5 o'clock once service gets running. So it's an apples to apples comparison in that regard. But it's using existing mass transit options today.
not
vehicle.
not automobile versus train.
No.
Okay.
But Joseph, the truth of the matter is, if it was train versus train also, Debbie's actually right. You could scoot over to Fordham and go to Stamford, and it's probably in a shorter time that you'll be able to scoot over to Morris Park to get to Stamford. So Debbie actually is right if you're comparing train to train.
If you went to Fordham, you would have to go to Grand Central, transfer to a subway to Penn Station, and then get on a Amtrak train. I'm sorry, Grand Central,
no.
then transfer up to Stamford.
Fordham is serviced by the New Haven line, so I could go to Stamford from Fordham.
You
Not
know
a
what?
problem.
You are right about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the trains pretty well, Brad, and you could go from Fordham up anywhere up on that New Haven line.
I'm not denying it. I'm wrong. I was incorrect.
Yeah. So Debbie is right. So I mean, I see what you're saying. I appreciate what you're all saying, but there is pros and cons here. Any other questions from committee or the public?
I saw Bernadette had her hand raised.
Okay, Bernadette, it's all yours.
Thank you. Okay, just a few questions. In the Parkchester Van Ness station, I know right next to it is a parking lot. Is that particular business going to stay there? Has that been decided? I don't really know what the process is with the existing businesses surrounding the immediate train station. I know that's not the same situation over at Morris Park, but at Parkchester Van Ness, there is a parking garage. It's been there for quite a while. So I'm wondering if that particular business is going to still be there as an option for those who are going to take a car to get to the train station.
In 2022, we initiated our eminent domain procedure law process for any properties that were of need for this project, in order to move forward with this project, because there's a considerable amount of time that goes into that. Much of it is negotiations with the property owners on the acquisition. Brad, you might be able to speak, well, you certainly could speak more in depth about how much of that parcel or that parking lot we intended to acquire and whether the remainder of it can operate as it does today. I know there is an interest in that property. We have not finalized it. I don't believe yet, but we are working with the property owner to acquire.
Yes, we are acquiring the entire parking lot in fee and we're in the process of purchasing it right now. There's no intention of leaving any parking area in that lot. It'll be turned into a power substation.
Okay. It would have been nice if one of them you can, one of them you would have been able to keep just to allow that to be a part of people getting to the train station, because you want to have as much traffic as possible, and there is no parking anywhere. I would say is very minimal. So it would have been a good ploy to get people there. So thank you for that question, answer to that question. The other one is the train stations, and I think I've asked this before, but I guess I want to get an updated answer. The train stations themselves are going to be open 24/7. Am I correct? Is that correct? So
As long as the trains are running, the trains start at around 5 a.m., run all day, and stop at around 2 a.m.
What they need to prosecute, then we need to look at those things, and those things need to be on the table.
But I want to just emphasize to everybody here, the DAs and
who's speaking?
Somebody was unmuted. I'm not sure that was part of this conversation.
Okay. So, so they start at 5 a.m. and when do they end? I didn't hear that.
Run all day, and the last train is approximately 2 a.m. The exact timetables for these 4 new stations have not been established yet, but in general, that's the time that Metro North operates.
Okay, so I guess my last question would be about safety measures. Is the train station itself, will they have attendants there? Will there be security, some sort of security until the train stop, until they stopping at that train station?
We'll be installing security cameras throughout the station. It will all be very well lit. There are what we call help points scattered throughout the stations. Those help points will call MTA PD if you have any sort of emergency. But to your more pointed question, there are no attendants. There's no people that will be there throughout the course of the day. There's no ticket agents there.
Okay, so but
in the context of the visioning exercises too, Bernadette. So, that's something else that DCP is also looking at, as part of that first mile, last mile is security, lighting, safety, that as well too. So I'm sure they're going to have some input into that as well.
Okay, thank you.
See, Tiz has her hand raised.
Thanks, Deb. So I'm just going to reiterate the parking situation. I will drive to a MTA station. Hi. I will drive to a station that does have parking before I get on a bus to get to a train station. So this is a community of drivers. So that's a very important issue. And it seems like the community is just not being heard on this. You can't force us out of our cars. And as far as security goes, you need more than just cameras and lights. You need actual security guards there, especially if trains are coming in at 2 a.m. That's a dangerous situation. And my last question, what is the cost of a ride on the MTA going to be? How expensive is it?
Two things. First, the security question. Obviously, we'll flag that for our Metro North counterparts who are actually going to be, maintaining and operating the stations. That wouldn't be for the construction side of things, but it is noted. I mean, it has come up before, so I thank you for that. And then secondarily, relative to cost, again, we're not going to be operating service until 2027 here, so that will be at the discretion of Metro North at that time. They are looking at things and considering things like the Atlantic ticket on Long Island Railroad. So the cost or the fee structure, if you will, has yet to be determined. It'll be commensurate with what, Metro North service is now, but, I don't know what inflation's going to be. I don't know, what they will or they won't implement. So it's a little premature to say what it's going to cost in 2027.
Well, what is it now?
Brad, you don't have any more on that, do you? Do you have any more insight?
Off the top of my head, I do not know what it costs for a Metro North ticket from someplace in the city.
Thank you.
We'll keep you updated. Again, that's another question that comes up very frequently. So as we get closer to revenue service and that those price points are established, we will be sure to share that with you.
I also, being that we're bringing up security, the Morris Park future station is very much walking distance from a meth clinic. What's going to stop, except for these cameras, what's going to stop the people from like the meth clinic hanging out in the overpass of the train station, you know, whether it's the day or the night between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., you know, something really has to be done about the security, especially, and I'm not discarding, you know, Co-op, Venice, or Hunts Point, but I'm just saying this one is like a block away from a meth clinic. And I know a lot of the merchants already having issues with the meth clinic. So what's going to be done at the Morris Park station to help keep the public safe from people that utilize the meth clinic?
So that MTA PD is going to be doing sweeps through the stations just like they do at every other station. And I know, having worked at White Plains and Fordham in the past, they have not so much Fordham. That Fordham, they lock the station house. At White Plains, they lock the station as much as they can to keep the homeless people out in the middle of the night. So, you know, between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., if it does become a problem, MTA PD would lock the station. These stations are much more capable of being locked than most stations on Metro North because they're all island platforms and you must take an overpass to get there.
Okay, if I may ask, and I might have asked this before, so please forgive me. So let's play a scenario out. So you're coming, God willing, 2027, and we know what happened with the chaos at the Long Island Railroad a few weeks ago. So it's 2027, we're at the grand opening of the Penn Station project. We start day one, trains start to come down from Stamford, and they stop in all different places. They stop in Scarsdale, White Plains, North White Plains. And then lo and behold, Bernadette Ferrara is standing at the Morris Park station, and a train comes in, and it's packed. And Bernadette, who does not curse, learns some new words and says, "What the hell is going on here?" My friends from the MTA said, "This is going to be a great thing for me, that I could go all the way into Penn Station. But I'm a very skinny lady, and I can't even get into this train. It's packed." What are you doing? And I blame the Long Island Railroad thing for, I think the words is quality assurance. What are you doing to make sure, and I think that was a good question before, how much is this going to cost? Because somebody's going to pay for this new extension, and probably it's the customer. How much is Bernadette going to have the privilege to pay to stand on a train like a sardine? Because she's at the, I don't know, again, I don't know the order where it is, I think Hunts Point is probably the last stop, but she's 2 stops away from the last stop, and there is no way that she could get onto this train.
So obviously the MTA or Metro North service planning team has taken a look at what, or projected, and they don't project based on today's numbers. When they plan for new stations and new service, they plan for, you know, years out in the future. So if off the top of my head, I believe they were planning for 2035 numbers, ridership numbers, which obviously took a hit due to the pandemic, and we're only getting back to pre-pandemic numbers now, though frankly, Metro North has bounced back quicker than a lot of the other areas. So that being said, let's just presume that they were their 2025 or 2035 estimates. they've already taken in consideration the amount of service that's going to be needed to accommodate that level of service. And much like the Metro North or the Long Island Railroad service into Grand Central that you mentioned, and that I use on an everyday basis, I'm a Long Island Railroad user, so I know that experience firsthand. Very quickly, they adapted and they changed on the fly. They added trains, they added cars to particular trains, they changed train times. So it will be a work in progress at first. If they nail it right out of the gate, God bless them, but they are going to be nimble enough to adapt and change. It's going to be sort of a truncated service when oh, bless you, as it first rolls out. And then a more permanent schedule will be implemented after they start to roll service out. But again, I defer to Brad on some of his expertise in dealing with Metro North on that.
I mean, at this point, we don't even know what the timetables are. It's very hard to say. I don't even want to speculate.
I could just tell you, Brad, today in the year 2023, you could stand at Fordham at about 8:22. I think a train comes in there, or 8:32, something like that. And you're a very lucky man or lucky woman if you get anywhere near to a seat. Train is packed by the time it gets to Fordham. You do get people that get out there because of Fordham University. But it's an in and out, but it's not, I don't know if it's a balance. I'm just worried the same situation is going to be dealt with here because Morris Park is going to be the third one online even after the first two get in. So, and I think the reverse going up from Stamford, that I can't fight for because I think you have that today too. Stamford going to Fordham could be people getting on a lot at Grand Central, so it might be the same Penn Station. But I'm just concerned on the way down if Fort Bernadette have a seat.
I know if I was going to go towards Penn Station, I would probably drive up to New Rochelle or a little more north just so I could park my car because to take two buses to a station is just ridiculous.
I agree.
And I would probably get a seat where Bernadette would have to stand
too, where if you did it long enough, and like I've driven in, there have been times where there either trains were not convenient for me the times, or I just decided to drive in on a particular day, and then I every single time I've done that, I say, I will never curse LIRR again after sitting in LIE traffic going into and out of the city every day. So, I don't know. I imagine the Bronx is similarly configured. I've driven through the Bronx to Yankee games or to go to New Jersey or through New Jersey to Pennsylvania. And, they seem just as congested, those roads, as the LIE does. So I would think there's, and it's obviously speculation, benefit.
You would be going with, but you're talking going with traffic. I would be going opposed traffic.
Debbie,
yeah, you'd be going upstream.
Can we give a chance to other members of the board? Because if we continue back and forth between you and the gentleman, forget about it. Easter is around the corner. So,
okay, Chris, who's next?
Anybody else from the board has any questions? So before I turn it into the public.
I didn't see any other hands. I looked at the hands.
Okay,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Bernadette, please.
It's a very quick question. I'm just going to give an example. I don't know if this has come up with MTA, but instead of the bus service, I know in Manhattan, for example, with NYU, they have 800 buildings, or probably more now, and they have a trolley that basically goes to a different specific areas where that might expedite instead of a actual bus. I don't know what the decision was, but has a specific trolley to pick up passengers to go to to Parkchester, Van Nest, and to Morris Park. Has that ever been discussed, or is that something that's a possibility just for specific?
That question was asked by me about, I don't know, a year ago. And
I
said, why can't we be Riverdale Junior? Riverdale has a little green bus that goes around. We don't know who pays for it, what pays for it, but Riverdale has a bus that goes to all the private houses, wherever they have to go, and drops people off at Brad would know better than me, with all those stations up there, Marble Hill, and so on and so forth. So that does exist. Who pays for that? I have no answer. I don't think anybody had an answer last time. But that would be the perfect situation, Joe. Everybody would smile. You would get rid of the trains. You would get a little green. We'll make it a blue trolley in Pelham Parkway, and people would be picked up, go to the station, and picked up on the way back, like it does in Riverdale. But they're Riverdale and we're the Bronx. That's the problem.
But we're
Who
all the
pays for that?
Bronx.
But yeah, that's definitely something that's been floated around, and I can't say where we've landed on that or who would pay for that. But that is something that's on the table that folks continue to discuss to this day. So.
Joe, any idea who pays for that today?
No, I don't. I can look into it though. I'll try to find out.
It's a possibility that the elected officials for the area have provided, but we can find out through Community Board 8, if possible. Maybe they might have an idea who's financing that.
It's a
But
beautiful.
if a trolley like that, electric, so environmentalists can say, oh, at least it's not emitting any gas. We can get an electric one that starts from 180th Street all the way up to where is going to be a train station for Morris Park, stopping in different stops, picking up people from Van Nest and dropping all the way back from Metro North back to 180th Street or so on and so forth, or going east-west, some to that extent. I mean, that can be started since everything has been started so far. Any other questions from board members? This is the last call, please.
Okay, let's go to the public.
Let's go to the public, yes.
Firsthand, I see.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Finch, Bronx Park East Community Association. I am a non-car owner, and the 39 bus and the 22 bus for people who live anywhere near White Plains Road would go right to the Van Nest Parkchester station. So I would take that, or I would take an e-scooter if it was nice weather out. Also, I would do what I did when I lived in Manhattan, where you didn't drive to Penn Station from the Upper West Side. You took a taxi, or if you were coming back late at night by train, and then you would take a taxi home instead of the subway. So to me, the stations look quite accessible. And hopefully some of the developers who are going to build around the stations, maybe some of them will build parking garages. And that's my other question is, can you talk a little bit about how you liaise with the city planning agency about the development that they're planning to get ready for around the station areas? Because it sounds so complicated, your timeline of all the work you have to do. And when will it be time for them to be able to start building and construction and conceptualizing things?
So they're already in the midst of their rezoning process in order to allow them to do what they, want to do. So we very much have a collaborative dialogue on what's going on with our project versus what's going on with their planning efforts, as well as our transit-oriented development team also has direct lines and direct communication, not only with city planning, but about a lot of the developers in the area, to talk about how these station footprints are going to fit into what the vision is for those areas, and what other elements that they, as you mentioned, third-party developers might bring to the table as this stuff comes online. I don't have enough information, and I'd be speaking out of school. I know, and Brad, can confirm as well. There's a lot of discussion in areas like Morris Park where there is a lot going on from a development side. Folks have come to us all the time and say, well, what would you consider bringing your entrance to my building or to my area? Because they're excited about it and excited about the access that would, the luxury of an access point like that would mean for their development or their building. So a lot of those conversations are going on all the time. Yeah, we're not precluding anything at this point.
So do you think that developers are going to be building at the same time that you're doing construction? Like, is it all going to be happening all at once?
I mean, we're not the developers. I don't think that we can say when they're going to be building. I'll say that during the preliminary design in 2018, 19, and 20, we worked with the Bronx community. We worked with Bronx City Planning to, help them understand where our stations would be built. They are now going through the rezoning process to see what areas around the stations they think they can rezone. I know that they are targeting Morris Park Station and Park Chester for rezoning so that developers can come in. If you look at Morris Park, Simone is a big developer on the south side. They have the Hutch Metro Center, and Montefiore is a big developer on the north side with the hospital and the educational campus. We have been in touch with them throughout the preliminary design and are still in touch with them now. Just we are simply updating them on what we're doing. But I cannot speak to what the developers themselves are doing and when they plan on doing it. We just simply hope to build the station, and like Joe said, if we build it, they shall come. Hopefully these developers will come and build something once the station is up and running. But I know that they are talking about things that they might want to do now.
Thank you.
Okay, next public speaker is. Get those hands up. Okay. No hands. Thank you so much. The MTA is dismissed. Unless you'd like to hang around.
Sorry, Rabbi? I have my
Yes, ma'am.
hand up, but it's regarding old business, not about the MTA presentation.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Does anybody have any following questions for MTA? Do I let the
Okay,
MTA
sorry.
go?
No.
They work very hard, the MTA. I want to let them get some. Okay, Joseph.
Everybody,
Brad,
thanks for
you are-
having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be bothering you pretty soon again.
No bother at all. I look forward to it. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is the gallery session, and it's my deep privilege to call on Ms. Delgado.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Friends of Helen Park held a rally last Saturday to save our parking lot, the Bronxdale South lot, from being, right now, as you know, it's free, and they want to make it all permit. And it seems like some of the electeds stated that DOT said that nothing's set in stone, so they'll take community input. But I have sent emails repeatedly to the district manager to give me an update, and he does not respond to those emails. So it doesn't seem fair that, a group that has been very active regarding this issue, regarding the parking lot in Bronxdale, is not receiving any responses from your staff regarding what DOT has, if DOT has provided any updates. DOT did say that when they do make their decision, they will notify Community Board 11 about it. But, what can I do? But just to heads up, a lot of people did call their electeds because it's going to be, as they say to News 12, it's going to be an extreme financial burden on a community that makes less than $35,000. We have met a lady, Tamara, who has a mom that's sick and she needs the car to take her to doctor's appointments. We have a lady who has a child with a disability who needs to take her to school. So we have a lot of stories where people feel like this will be really a financial, emotional burden on them. So hopefully when Community Board 11 does receive any updates from DOT, they'll notify me, hopefully. And second item is regarding the MTA. At this point, I'm sorry, what?
I'm asking Mr. Kirk if he has any response about what Ms. Delgado was talking about.
No, after the community board voted that, if anything can be done to rectify the issues and leave the southern part and southern parking lot as it is, we haven't gotten any response yet from MTA. From DOT.
I was told the interim commissioner would be on vacation for 2 weeks now, but Holly has been very responsive. But is it possible for you to forward me that email that you sent to DOT regarding the board's opinion on their proposal on the White Plains parking reconfiguration? Is that possible?
Yes, most definitely. As soon as I can get it.
Can you? I would really appreciate that because my second issue regarding is the MTA. Rabbi, I forwarded to Mr. Kirka the video where the Bronx Park East station was crumbling, big chunks of concrete falling onto the ground, and thankfully no pedestrian or vehicle were damaged in the process. I forwarded that to Mr. Kirk, I forwarded to you. I hope you had a chance to review it. And I'm hoping that the community board will send a letter of support, which I'm following up with electeds, to include Bronx Parking Station in their plan for renovation. Because if a station has large chunks of concrete falling onto the ground, I'm not no engineer, but there's something wrong over there, in my humble opinion. And I thank you, Rabbi, for your time, and thanks again.
I agree with that, Roxanne, and I will try to speak to Jeremy and Chris tomorrow about sending out some letter about the concrete situation.
Thank you so much.
And I'm going to repeat myself, Roxanne, in regard to this parking thing. I don't know what's right and wrong there, to tell you the truth. I don't know what's going to make everybody happy and what everybody's sad and so on and so forth. I just don't think there is a perfect panacea which is going to make Community Board 11 happy. And sometimes I think their plan is right. Sometimes I think it's wrong. Sometimes I think it's going to affect the businesses. And then I say, I think my community people are more important than the businesses. But again, unless somebody has something brilliant to say to me in regard to that proposal, I don't know what the pros and cons are. And the worst part about it is, like I asked the commissioner, if it goes through, there is no trial period. We can't go backwards.
Correct.
So,
Rabbi,
I don't have anything brilliant to say. I'm sorry. I don't have anything brilliant to say, but I have to say, based on the rally that we have people from all 4 buildings surrounding the lot. And they were all against it, and they made some points about the financial burden. But the main thing is, regarding the business, White Plains Road business bid, it doesn't have any anchor store. The people who are mostly patronizing these stores are people who either local residents or people who tend to be traveling through the area or who work there. We don't have people coming from Westchester, Connecticut to come and shop like they do in Arthur Avenue, Little Italy, which has anchor stores that, or cannolis or Italian edibles that people come for. In Pelham Parkway and White Plains bid, we have the fast food joints, local pharmacies. There's nothing to attract people from outside our realm to come to shop. That's a sad fact. So DOT trying to make it all meter, thinking that it will improve the parking situation for those who patronize these stores. They're misguided, because we don't have people patronizing these stores outside our area. Most people in our area walk to the stores. And if it's going to be a drive, it's a short drive. It doesn't require long-term parking.
Yeah, Roxanne, I hear you very, very well. But you know, together with everybody on this phone, if God forbid whatever we approve affects the businesses, they'll all come crying to us. You took away parking, and that's why we're closing up our stores. And I see what you're saying. Most of them is foot travel, and you might be right. You might be right, and maybe you are right. But if we take away any of the parking that affects businesses, they'll say, you made me close up the store because now nobody comes to me.
Rabbi, Rabbi, that lot is not really for businesses. It's very far, or not very, very far, but it's far enough away from any, it's highly used for residential people. It is not commercial. So to put the burden on the people that live in the area is highly unfair.
Okay.
There's also another lot further up, closer to the businesses, that will have metered parking. There's 2 lots.
I have to concur with Debbie. That north lot, that Debbie, is mostly used by residential as well, because it has short-term, long-term meter and permit. So that's currently being used by residents. So that all meter is not going to affect the business benefitably or negatively. But to make that south lot permit only, it's going to be a financial burden on a very vulnerable community that's already has said to the reporter they can't even meet their rent bills as it is. So I just want to hopefully you take that into heart, because I don't even have a car, but I feel so bad when people who are being burdened when they're reaching their last, you can only burden a certain community until they break. And we don't want to break our community. We want to keep our community intact. We went through a lot with COVID-19, and they lost a lot of parking space to the Bronx that roll died. Sometimes you have to give people a break once in a while. Thank you.
Good. Roxanne, anything else that you would like to add before we?
No, thank you, Rabbi, for the letter for Bronx Park East Station be included. And if perhaps you could add Pelham Parkway we do need a new paint job because they said they can remove graffiti, but we have graffiti inside the station, outside the station, and the paint job is peeling right now, the current paint that we have. So if they can consider giving Pelham Parkway a new paint job, that'd be awesome. But I'd rather put Bronx Park East a priority because it is a safety issue. Pelham Parkway is an aesthetic issue, so I'd rather put safety before aesthetic. But if you could give Pelham Parkway Station, show them some love, I will really appreciate it.
We'll talk to them in the office tomorrow, Roxanne. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
comment.
Rabbi.
We turn it over to the next hand. Who has a hand? I see a hand. Bernadette, a hand.
Just one thing that to adding about the southern lot, that they want to make it permits. So the permits they become open to all of the residents of New York City. People will flock there, pay the money, and it will no longer serve the community. So that is a very important point to remind ourselves about. That particular southern lot will no longer serve the residents of a very high density area. And it will be open up to people from Parkchester will come to get that spot, pay whatever money, people from other areas too. So it's something that opening it up to having permits to all of the surrounding areas will no longer serve the community. So that's a point to be noted.
Thank you, Bernadette. Next customer. Okay, I just want to say, now the MTA is gone, I just want to say, not too happy with that. And I understand what Diana says. People want to walk. It's fine. I have nothing against that. But when he said that there's no parking lots, Metro North, the whole Riverdale has parking lots. I think every stop in Riverdale has a parking lot. So, and that guy who didn't know about Stamford, thank God I knew about Stamford. So I was a little depressed, but these are the guys that were paying big bucks, and they don't even know we have a train from Fordham going to Stamford. But that's okay. But I'm not happy about that at all. I think this Morris, and then last but not least, which they really didn't give me an answer, I think those trains are going to be packed by the time they come down to Bernadette. I think they are going to be so packed that it's going to be a complete, I don't want the word failure, but it's going to be a complete something. You fill in the blank. Because
I know the people in Co-op City are highly upset that there's no parking either.
Right. But no, but who cares? I'm saying the parking is now, to me, secondary. You're going to pay big bucks to go into Penn Station, and you're going to stand and read your book while you stand, and you're going to sleep while you stand. So I'm going to talk to Chris and Mr. Jeremy tomorrow. I think we should write a strong letter back to them. We heard you, but we are still distressed about the parking situation, and we're distressed about what is your plan to ensure that our commuters will go into a comfortable train, not like a sardine. And the truth of the matter is, and I didn't want to tell it to him, I think they should just run a shuttle for those 4 stations. That's all. Run a shuttle for those 4 stations. If they think we're so important, well, what's the first one going to be? Co-op City, I guess. They go start in Co-op City and straight across. And you don't need 8.
Make a motion. Make a motion so it can be even full. It can be voted at the full board. Everybody can be aware. Make a motion that we send a letter of objection or whatever, a letter of whatever you suggest, and let it be voted at the full board, and let the whole full board know about it, so at least the whole community knows, instead of just a few of us.
Okay, I have a quorum to make a motion?
Yes. Out of 3, you are 2 of you. So go ahead.
All 2 of us. Okay, that's great. Okay. I make a motion that we send a letter. Now, I don't want to use the word objection, Chris. Could I say a letter of concern to the MTA's plan for implementing, let's see how I say this, for implementing the 4 stations in the Bronx with non-accompanying parking. Is that a motion? That sounds like a motion.
Yep.
Can you restate that and clarify that, please?
I don't remember what I said. I would like to make a motion that we have concern, the Transportation Committee has a concern about the impending plan for MTA building 4 new stations in the Bronx. And our concern is about security, parking, and comfort for Bronx commuters. And if you think I remember I said this time, but I think that sounded beautiful.
Well, you
Do I
added
have a-
security.
Well, we got audio. I second that motion.
Okay, good. Anybody object? Anybody abstain? I feel like I'm talking to myself.
It's only you and me.
What I'm saying. Okay, motion carries, will be brought up to the board. Okay, I see Cynthia Rodriguez would
And
like to say.
And Diana Finch has her hand up. She had her hand up.
Oh, I'm just looking at the screen, so I don't know who came first. So let's go in alphabetical order. Cynthia.
Hi, Rabbi. Just a quick question, because I just heard your motion. Did you include the suggestion about the shuttle, or was that something you were going to leave out?
I'm leaving out the shuttle for now. I'm going to start on a slow path, and then we're going to hit them with the big stuff.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think, to tell you the truth, Cynthia, I think the shuttle is being paid for by the people in Riverdale. I think it somehow goes into their Metro North ticket.
I have no doubt.
I think it does. Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. Anything else, Cynthia? Because I still see the hand. Nope. We go to back
No,
to
I'll take it down. Thanks.
Diana. It's back to you.
Yes, just very quickly on the motion, maybe instead of comfort, say ridership levels or space, because I'm not sure they'll understand what you mean by comfort of the Bronx riders. But my questions are more about the parking lot and that whole program that DOT explained. I wanted to know if the community board is in some kind of dialogue with DOT about it, because I'd like to know whether there are other municipal parking lots in the city that are free. I think that would be very good for us to know if we're negotiating with them. Is this the only free one, or is it a very common practice? And I think that in our discussions with them, we have to take into account what their overall plan is, because it's not just the 2 parking lots independently of each other. They're losing permit spaces from the north lot because they're adding the EV chargers and the Zipcar spaces. They're also losing metered spaces on the street in the area because they're adding unloading zones for trucks, and they're turning spaces on the street in the surrounding area into metered spaces that have been free. And they say that they're doing all of this in order to cut down, eliminate, if possible, double parking throughout the whole commercial area and surrounding the commercial area, because they think that leads to congestion and crashes. So when we're talking about keeping the south lot free, I think we have to work in, what's their goal for the entire plan? Why are they doing this? And how can we keep it free while still giving them what they need to eliminate the double parking and make up for the spaces they're losing in the north lot? And I would also like to ask the chair to commit to having a transportation committee meeting every month between now and June, even if you don't have a guest speaker, because I know that there are a lot of people in the area who have a lot of questions and concerns and problems with transportation, not just the big projects, but just everyday issues throughout the whole district. So if we could commit to having transportation committee meetings every month, I think that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Diane, I just want to say, I do know, like Spite and Dival, they do have free parking over at the Metro North.
Good. So that we can say that,
And I
not taking away the free municipal parking at these other areas, so don't take away ours.
Right. And I do know that at I think it's referred to as Woodlawn. It's over by 233rd.
Yes.
I know there's a parking there, and at Botanical Garden. I'm not sure if those are permit or not, but that's still, whether it's permit or free, it's still
mix
it's
it up.
still supply, right? It's still supplying parking for somebody that's going to take the car to the train so they can go into city or north.
Right, and maybe we could ask for some kind of, free permits for residents. If you can prove that you are a resident within a 1 block area, you can get a free permit.
I don't know about 1 block area, because 1 block you can just walk it.
Well, it's just if you have a car and you live there, then,
Right.
that would be beneficial. But
Right.
yeah, that would be beneficial. But, with their new construction that they had done, 13 parking spaces were already lost. So the availability was smaller. And they really should take this into consideration because, and Diana, I think there's always going to be double parking in Pelham Parkway. I would love to not have it because driving, I've lived there my whole life.
Well, the
There's
reason I
always-
mentioned it is that that's what they have in their plan.
Yes,
They
yes.
stress the double parking and the double parking that leads to crashes. And that's why they're adding the spaces for delivery only for
Mhm.
the trucks, so that the trucks won't have to double park while they're delivering. They'll have dedicated spaces.
But there's the one space that they did dedicate, which I have absolutely no idea why they even allocated that, is on Sagamore between Birchill and Amethyst. Nobody's gonna park their car there and wheel everything 3 or 4 blocks away. That, I looked at, I said, that doesn't make any sense. The other one, yes, but they have 2 loading zones. That other loading zone is so far away from any of the businesses. I don't understand how that's even going to be, I don't understand that one.
One
Yeah.
thing I can say,
Yeah, I
it
wouldn't
surprises-
understand. I
It
wouldn't.
surprises me why DOT doesn't put the same rules and regulations that are used in Manhattan. What I'm saying is this: in Manhattan, for delivery trucks, for stores, for supermarkets, so on and so forth, it's between 4 or 5 a.m. until 8 a.m. Nobody can park over there. Then at 8 a.m. until 8:30, it's cleaning, and 8:30 and on, then cars can come and park and pay meters, what's on, and so forth. Why something like this can not be implemented to the Bronx? So we're never gonna have double parking, because once you're gonna start delivering at 2 p.m. and you're double parked, let the agent ticket them.
I mean, that
the
makes
cars
sense.
Can come, the delivery people can come between 5 a.m. at 7:30 or 8 until 8:30 you do the cleaning of the street, 8:30 and on you can start the meters. And everybody's gonna be nice and happy, nobody's gonna have headaches. And after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., it's gonna be free and then people can park from the street. At 5 a.m. in the morning, move your car after that. Simple as that. Why in Manhattan this is implemented and it's not implemented here in Bronx? I don't understand that part.
So that could be put in the letter.
Yeah, I cannot see something
Writing
like
letters and writing letters, but
McDonald's.
it's getting all these letters getting deaf here or there, thrown in the garbage, because so far, I don't know if we have gotten a positive response from DOT. The only 2 things that we gotten from DOT so far is they approved to repave the street, Mace Avenue and Lydic Avenue, the 2 proposals that we put it in writing, and it's going to be on FYI 24. I mean, whatever it's called. So let's hope it's going to happen there.
But Chris, can we start sending letters to DOT with this particular thing and saying, we'd like to know the timeline of when you are going to respond to the concerns of the community? We need to be putting pressure on them.
I agree. I mean, but you know what? You as a chair, you can bring it up at your chair report in front of the board. So you can be unanimous as the board, as the voice of Community Board 11 that represent the whole district.
I'm sorry.
And then letters or emails can be sent to the commissioner of DOT, either to the mayor, to the commissioner of the entire city, or to the borough commissioner, and see what's going to be the response from them.
Okay, no problem. You heard all that, Rabbi? Unmute yourself.
Public. Okay, we now move on to the beautiful gallery session. Or did we do that already? No, I don't think we did that.
I
Yeah, we
think
did.
you did.
Yeah, we did it. Gallery session. Okay. Motions we did already. Anybody have old business? Once, twice, three
There was
times.
the street permit.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know, and that's Chris. Chris is going to do that with new business. Chris Kirk is now going to take this over, and he has 3 permits.
I don't know anything about that. Is that, what's it called? What's her name? Grace
Grace.
Nevada is present, and she wants to have an activity with the library at Allerton Association. Her request is that since we have the rules and regulation for a new application when it comes to city block, to the blocks, party blocks, we need at least 65% of signatures in the area to be taken. It's up to the committee, after you're gonna hear from Grace Lavalio what exactly she proposes, to decide either to eliminate or to oversee that thing or overpass. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
Grace, go ahead.
Hi.
Intro yourself.
Hi, everybody. Great meeting so far. Yes, the thing is, every year, the Allerton Barnes Block Association has a block party. This year, Manny Martinez, who I believe is also on the call, from the Allerton Library, we've been working together for 10 years, Manny and I, on the block parties. This year, he got a grant and he wanted to be the one to put it together. But it had to be under the library's, they had to put in the street activity permit, but it's still our project. So basically what we're asking is that to waive the signature, the petition portion, because we did that 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we did the petitioning from the whole neighborhood. We got that. Otherwise, so this way we started the block parties. So we just want to waive it because even though it's coming from the Allerton Library, the permit, it's really it's a joint operation, but it's just going to be under the library this year. Am I making sense? So it's going to be, as usual, we always do the summer reading kickoff and the Hello Summer block party, and it's also going to be in honor of the Allerton Barnes Block Association's 10th year anniversary. So it's our 10th year together. So we, Manny wanted to make a point of doing that, taking a load off of my shoulders for a change, which I'm happy about that. And we just wanted to waive the petition, the petitioning part, because we did that 10 years ago.
Grace,
It's the same block.
which area we're talking about to block?
Wait, say again?
Which area we're talking about that you're gonna block?
Barnes Avenue between Arno and Allerton, where I always have the block party. Same block, as everything's the same, except the street activity permit is under the library's name instead of Abba's name. That's all.
I say, see no evil, hear no evil. Fine.
Yeah, we have Manny. He's the manager of the library at Allerton Avenue. Manny, just give us a quick synopsis and what exactly you're looking to do over there on that day, please.
Yeah, so we're I spoke with Grace this time around, and I asked, if I could take charge of the block party. Same block party basically we do every year, where for the library's part, we launch our summer learning initiative. For the children, we usually have vendor-led programs. So what we're looking to do, I put in, I believe, like 12 to 5. The library is only open until 5 p.m. anyway. This time around, and what we're going to do is maybe have like some tabling events. So, different organizations within the community providing information to the community. We're going to have presenters that the library usually books for summer learning. So we're looking to go with 2 to 3 presenters, one for each age category. So children, teens, and adults, and then some music throughout the day for the children. So it's a family event.
It's basically what we do every year. We provide food, entertainment, music, and so on, things like that. It's basically what we do every year.
Yeah, for us, we follow the guidelines to everything, like food wise, it'll be pre-packaged, like stuff we give away, juices, little snacks.
Rabbi,
I hear you.
any questions, Rabbi?
No, I'm saying see no evil, hear no evil. It's just
Well,
Any questions?
Excuse me?
questions. He's taking it over.
Debbie, do you have any questions?
Well, I don't necessarily have a question. I'm just saying, Manny knows I love him, I respect him and all that. I love the library and all, but being that this is under the library, I really cannot see doing it, I cannot see it being grandfathered over. It's a new permit, new entity. If everybody in that block supports it, it really should not be a problem to get the new signatures, because if we're going to go bending the rule for this time, then there's going to be bending the rule for another time. And, like I said, I love the library. I love and respect Manny, but I feel this needs to have new signatures, being it's a new permit, a new entity.
But it's not being grandfathered over to anything.
I don't think we're bending any
rules. Grace, you are asking it to be grandfathered over.
No, I'm asking for the signature portion to be waived.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You're asking the signature part to be grandfathered over. By waiving it, you're asking it to be grandfathered over.
Yes, but Deb, first of all, it's going to be all the same people. It's all the same people for the same situation.
So it shouldn't be an issue getting the new signatures.
I don't think it's I think it's you have a partnership going on, even though the name is going under the library. It's still a partnership with an association that already has had this over the last couple of years. I really don't, you're asking for them to do a lot more. It's a lot more work to get all the signatures. I know that for a fact. So I don't really see why it's a problem. Why don't we just take a vote on it?
Yeah, but it's just me and Rabbi. Rabbi says one thing, I say the other.
Okay, so Bernadette will break the tie. Bernadette, you break the tie. You're the chairwoman, you break the tie.
You cannot do that. No. Rabbi. It cannot be done. I mean, since it cannot be voted, it's going to be brought at leadership.
Okay. I want to be on the record.
Bring this to the leadership. When is going to be the event, if I may ask?
June 24th.
June 24th. I'm just throwing it out there. Can you get signatures between now and, I don't know, full board, which is the 27th?
No, like Bernadette said, it's a lot more work to do that. And it's already been done. Everybody on the block in the neighborhood already knows that the block party is going to happen. It's going to be there. So
this is the dilemma that it's causing all this kind of headache. Davey says that since his grandfather, as based on what you're saying, that the whole neighborhood knows, you shouldn't have a problem to get it, even though that it is for a good cause. So
no, but listen.
Aren't there certain organizations that are exempt from getting petitions? If you're a 501c3, aren't you exempt?
No, 501c3s have to do it.
Sorry?
It is in our rules and regulations. If you can see it at the street activity permits under our website, it's written in there. Those are the rules that were voted by the board. Only the board can.
Right, I know that. But the board can waive that. It's under their discretion. So I don't see why that would be. It shouldn't be a problem. I mean, if it was somebody else besides me, would that be a problem? I don't understand.
But hold on, Grace. It's not about because of you or because of the public library or because of anything else. The whole point is what David's bringing as an issue is this. If we do it for you, that's going to open the door for any other organization or any other place. I mean, whoever's going to decide to have a block party, even a private block party, to say, why you don't waive it for us and waive it for them? So
because we already did it.
Also,
No,
those
doesn't work that way.
those signatures were 10 years ago. People moved away, people moved in. You have to make sure that the current people that live there are okay with it.
Anyway, so Rabbi,
Signature
you can bring it up with
does
the
not expire,
leadership,
Debbie.
and the leadership will
Chris.
discuss it even more in details.
Chris, just let Grace finish. You guys are talking over each other.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying that for Debbie to say the signatures were 10 years ago, it makes no difference. It was done. That's the idea. It was done. I got the signatures 10 years ago. It's the same block party. It's the same two parties doing the block party. The only difference is that the street activity permit is under the library's name instead of Abba's name. That's it. Everything else is the same.
So
It's not a new block party. It's the same thing, except he was able to get a grant. He's got a budget, which helps out Abba as well, because the onus of everything always was on Abba, other than what the library did, their portion. But the majority of everything was on me, basically. And Manny, was graciously asked if he could do this, not only to help me out, but also in honor of our 10-year relationship of the library putting it together this year. That's this year. After that, it's back to Abba, the street activity permit, but it's the same event. It's not a different event.
Okay, could I ask a question? Manny, would you be able to have somebody, either a volunteer or somebody from the library, or maybe a high school student or somebody to be able to take this off to get some of the signatures?
I should be able to, yes. Look, I don't want to, this is my first time, taking over. I'm not trying to bend any rules or anything like that.
Oh.
I just wanted to, help, support, provide
Well, you guys are
something to the community. But
partnershiping.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to make it complicated or anything like that. This is like I said, it's my first time taking over. Grace has helped me out with like a little bit of the process of what we have to do, and that if we have to, we have to. Like I said, as long as I was trying to get it a good jump on everything so that we could plan out accordingly. This year, yeah, I did want to take charge, and lead the block party, and that's kind of what I wanted to help Grace out with. But like I said, I'm not trying to make anything difficult or bend any rules.
Well, just so you know, excuse me, just so you know, just like with street co-namings, everybody has to go out and get signatures for stuff like that. I understand what you're saying, Grace. I think because it's something that it seems to be, it's a status quo for every year, and not everybody is going to be moving out and moving with new people. But if you have to, that will, you guys could do a joint venture on that. But we should take it for a vote. But I don't see a problem. But I'm not the only person. So if we have to take a vote, we take a vote.
Yeah. So if you can start getting some signatures between now and full board, that's helping yourself getting a jump.
Okay, not a problem.
All right. Well, what the whole idea was not to have to go out and get the signatures, because it's not easy sometimes, especially now.
They'll open the doors. If you knock on them, they will open.
Well, you got to catch them at home. So, but it's just extra work, which makes no sense. Just seems like it's extra work. I did it 10 years ago. I busted my behind about 10 years ago to get it done, and I got it done. I just feel it's going backwards.
Oh, why don't we leave it, like Chris said, to take a vote? We could take a vote and at the full board.
Oh, what about not the leadership committee?
Leadership, I'm sorry, leadership, yes.
And when is that?
Leadership is a week before the full board, so the full board is what, Is it 27th? So it's gonna be I guess it's.
Got to
No,
double
it's just
check
gonna
because
be on the
it's some
20th.
holidays.
On the 20th is the leadership, on the 27th is
Is
the
the
full
full-
board. So between leadership, if it's voted okay, then you don't have to do the footwork. But if it's put it with, how am I gonna say, with the restriction that signatures are needed, then I guess you're gonna have another 7 days, 6 days, 7 days to get some signatures at least. I mean,
The only problem with that is that we were supposed to be on the agenda, last month. We had talked about this, I had talked
Yes.
about this back in February, and, you know, it was my understanding that it wouldn't be a problem just to waive the signature portion of it, since it's the same event. We weren't on the agenda, in March. We almost weren't on the agenda today. If I hadn't contacted Jeremy, we still wouldn't have been on the agenda. So now we're looking at the end of April and then May, and then, you know, you have to get back to the city events for the approval. That's cutting it very close. There's a time limit to this. That's the problem.
From my understanding, you didn't put it in last month until a couple of hours prior to the transportation meeting, from my understanding.
Well, that was, Manny had some personal, I don't know, he wasn't able to put it in. He was having an issue putting it in, not an issue, but he had to get some kind of waiver for something and so on. So he was waiting on something on his end, because he put in the permit.
Okay.
I had initially put in the permit in January, I believe, and then because Manny approached me and wanted to do it, I said okay, and I had asked about the thing being waived, and it was in my impression that it wouldn't be a problem, so I pushed back my date. The permit I submitted, I pushed it back to next year. I was able to change the date so that Manny could put his in, but then he didn't anticipate problems of, wait, my camera keeps going off. I guess he didn't anticipate the issues that came up with him putting in the permit, because I had already done the permit. I had already done it. And then I just changed the date when he said, you know, we talked about him.
Okay, so the permit is submitted.
The permit is submitted.
Yes, I submitted the permit.
Okay.
No worries, just,
So there's not
don't
gonna
worry,
be
get
any
back to us. It's
problem.
perfectly fine, don't worry.
Yeah, there's
If
not
we
gonna
have
be
to
any
get the
problem.
signatures, we'll get it. We'll get it. If we have to, we have to. No worries, I completely understand on my end.
Yeah.
guys, have some faith on leadership, have some faith on community board. I mean, don't.
Grace, I will make sure that it's it's on the leadership committee. Okay?
Okay. Anybody
Thank
else
you.
with new business?
And yeah, I just saw on the thing, that's true. Conti never got signatures either, and they were waived. So if you want to see, there's already a precedent for that.
He didn't have that. I don't think he had.
No, nobody waived county. I was one of them that I mentioned in a meeting that they need signatures just like everybody else.
He didn't,
As
he
I
never
remember very
had
well.
that. He never had that. What he had was in front of the, and he was with the street co-naming.
Right.
Was on the day of that. He
Right.
never had on,
Not the co-naming, Bernadette. It was when they wanted to have that 100th anniversary
It didn't happen.
thing.
It didn't happen.
It didn't.
Right, it
was in
didn't
front of their
happen.
business.
It didn't happen because they backed out of it, but they still didn't get the signatures. They were gonna
Yeah,
go through
because
with
we
the whole
put
thing.
our foot down. It was, believe it or not, we put our foot down when it came to that.
Yes, we
I
did.
was the one that even put the foot down.
Right.
I said, if it's
But
for
also-
everybody got to do it.
Right, but also that was a new
Listen,
event.
let's not start with ganders and goose and things like that, because when it comes to that, I've been very strict. So have faith on the board. Let the board decide on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, anything else with new business, please? Going once, twice, 3 times. We are adjourned.
What about old business?
I did old.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. We are adjourned at 9:16 p.m. on April 3rd. Have a happy Easter, everybody, whatever holiday you celebrate. And I will commit, with God's help, to do this every month, although I've done this every month already. So I don't know why I have to commit, but okay.
Rabbi, happy Passover.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody, and be blessed and enjoy life, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.